Welcome to another deep dive, and this one is, well, it's pretty personal.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to be looking at someone's experience at Caribbean Union College in Trinidad.
CUC
Yeah, CUC, exactly.
back in
That's
1995.
like a time capsule.
Exactly.
Like, we're going to open up this person's life
Yeah.
during their first year at university.
First year.
Yeah, and what we have are excerpts from just a single chapter of a much larger work, but even in that small snippet.
It's packed.
Oh, it is
So much emotion.
so much going on.
Ambition, family dynamics.
Oh, yeah, some really,
Dedicated ones.
yeah, complicated family dynamics. And one of the things that really stuck out to me right off the bat was the way the narrator describes the love and support they received from their family.
Or didn't receive in some cases.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get the sense that it was very conditional.
Right.
And even looking back on it, 26 years later.
26 years.
Yeah.
It's like they still feel the weight of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right from the start on page 3, they say, I knew that my being at CUC was a big deal because I was the only one out of my siblings who excelled in school, so I accepted it how it came.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff.
It is, and you can almost feel that tension, as they describe their initial, triumph at university.
Right.
They say, remedial math was a breeze, and I passed all my courses for that semester.
You can hear the pride.
Oh, yeah, there's this sense of yes, I did it.
Validation.
Yeah.
All that hard work paid off.
Exactly. But then we turn the page to page 5,
Ah.
and things take a bit of a turn.
A shadow falls
Yeah.
over the narrative.
Their grades plummet.
Second semester.
Yeah, and you start to see the self-doubt creeping in.
Yeah, they even start to question their choice of major, business administration.
Yeah, and for me, this is where the story gets really intriguing because the source doesn't explicitly state why this downturn happens.
Yeah.
But it drops some pretty significant clues along the way.
It does.
I mean, we already know about the lack of family support. The pressure to succeed.
Oh, yeah. It's immense.
Huge.
But then there's this passage where they talk about feeling isolated.
Yeah.
Struggling to make friends.
Alone.
Yeah. They say, I was alone and most times wished I had never come to CUC.
Heartbreaking.
It is. And it's even more poignant, I think, when you consider what we learn later about their past experiences with abuse.
Right. It's like they're carrying this invisible weight,
Yeah.
making it even harder to connect with others.
It really makes you wonder how much of that social withdrawal was due to external factors like,
The new environment.
the new environment.
Challenges of university life.
Exactly. And how much stems from a deeper internal struggle to cope with, past trauma.
Absolutely. And I think this is where that concept of conditional love becomes really crucial to understanding their journey.
Yeah.
They've internalized this idea that love and acceptance are based on achievement.
On meeting certain expectations.
Exactly. So when those expectations aren't met,
Yeah.
it triggers not only this fear of external judgment, but also,
A deep sense of internal shame.
yeah, it's like this double whammy.
Exactly.
And it makes their resilience all the more remarkable because even when their grades slip,
Even when they feel alone,
yeah, disillusioned,
they don't give up.
they keep going. And then on page 7, we meet Mrs. Ward.
Ah, Mrs. Ward.
Such a compassionate tutor.
Oh, what a turning point.
Yeah, she becomes a real turning point in their story.
A mentor.
Yeah,
A guide.
and she encourages them to switch majors to business education.
Which breathes new life into their academic journey.
It does.
They write, she was the only one who saw my potential and believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself.
Oh, that's so powerful.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's a-
Single supportive figure.
It can make all the
A
difference.
world of difference.
Really shows you how crucial mentorship is, especially for someone navigating such a complex web of personal and academic challenges.
Yeah, it's like Mrs. Ward provided a safe space
Yeah.
to explore
Yeah.
their true passions.
Yes, their talents free from all that judgment and pressure they were experiencing elsewhere.
Exactly.
And it's interesting to note how this shift in their academic direction coincides with a renewed sense of spiritual seeking.
Right. On page 8,
Yeah.
they describe getting rebaptized
Yeah.
and confiding in two pastors.
Pastor Morgan and Pastor Joseph.
Yes, about their struggles.
It's like they're searching for solace,
Yeah, and
trying to make sense of their pain within a framework of faith.
right, and in a truly vulnerable act.
They decide to write a letter to their stepmother,
Oh, wow.
apologizing for any past wrongdoings.
Wow.
They say, I wanted to make things right, And I thought maybe this would be a step towards healing our relationship.
Reaching out,
Yeah.
especially considering those strained family dynamics.
Yeah, it speaks volumes about their character.
It does.
They're not just focused on their own pain.
They're trying to reconcile,
Yeah,
even if it means putting themselves out there,
yeah, making themselves vulnerable.
which makes what happens next
Oh, I know.
all the more heartbreaking.
It really is. And we're going to have to leave it there for now, but be sure to join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll unpack the consequences of this betrayal.
It's a big one.
It is. It really shakes things up.
Can't wait to dive in.
Me neither.
So that letter, you know, the one they wrote to their stepmom?
The one meant to be this, like, bridge.
Yeah, a peace offering.
Yeah.
It becomes a weapon.
I know.
Instead of this private apology, it's like plastered
Publicly displayed
by the father, twisted, you know,
to make the narrator look bad.
proof of their bad character.
Oh, it's awful. Page 9 when I read that.
I know.
Just imagine having your vulnerability just exploited like that. You're trying to reconcile,
Right.
and it just blows up in your face.
Public spectacle.
Yeah, and with everything we know about their past trauma,
Makes it even worse.
it's just, yeah, it's like a punch to the gut.
It really highlights how
Talking
toxic.
family dynamics.
So toxic.
Yeah.
The stepmother on page 10, cold and unforgiving.
Yeah, there's almost this sense that she's jealous
Jealous.
of narrator's opportunity.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it makes you think about the bigger picture, right?
Oh, totally.
Societal pressures.
Yeah, women, especially.
Especially back then.
Yeah,
Opportunities for education.
advancement. Advancement, they were scarce.
They were.
And the narrator even brings up this book they were reading.
Oh, yeah. Witches in the Pews.
Yeah, what a title.
Right.
And they're drawing a parallel to these women who use religion
As a weapon.
to control and inflict pain.
It's a powerful connection.
Isn't it?
Adds another layer to the stepmother's actions, you know?
Yes, for sure.
The refusal to forgive.
Yeah.
Public shaming.
Like she's trying to maintain her position.
In the family.
Yeah, in the hierarchy.
Like a power play.
Totally. It's like the narrator's success is somehow threatening
Threatening
to her.
to her power.
Yeah. And what's really troubling is the father's role in all of this.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't intervene.
He doesn't defend his child?
Nope. Page 11, the narrator just says he believed her.
Wow.
Like he's either completely oblivious
to what's happening?
or complicit.
Like he's in on it.
Yeah, it's a failure of parental responsibility.
On such a deep level.
It really is. And it just speaks to that broader issue of power imbalances within families.
When one person holds all the cards.
Yeah, it creates this environment where abuse can thrive.
And the consequences.
Oh, they're devastating.
They extend so far beyond that one incident.
The source tells us on page 12 that the narrator was never forgiven
Never.
and they weren't able to finish their degree.
That's heartbreaking.
It is, but it also reveals this truth about how the wounds inflicted by those closest to us
They cut the deepest.
and the lack of closure,
the lack of acknowledgement.
accountability,
It leaves scars.
it does. And it makes you wonder, how do you navigate forgiveness?
When the person who hurt you,
Won't even admit they did anything wrong.
how do you move on when justice feels impossible?
It's a tough question.
No easy answers.
But I think it's helpful to remember that forgiveness,
At its core,
yeah,
is about releasing yourself from that burden.
of anger and resentment.
Exactly. It doesn't mean condoning the behavior.
Right, or forgetting the pain.
No, it's about letting go of the bitterness that keeps you tethered to the past.
Yeah, and that brings me back to the narrator's decision to seek solace in faith.
Right. They describe their rebaptism
Their conversations with the pastors,
as a way of processing their pain.
yeah, and seeking guidance.
But it's important to remember
I know where you're going with this.
religious institutions,
Yeah.
they're not immune to those same power dynamics.
And human failings.
that exist everywhere else.
Yeah, in this case, it seems like the pastors, while they may have offered individual support,
Right.
didn't challenge those systemic issues within the family.
Or hold those in power accountable.
No. And that's a sobering thought.
It is.
It reminds us that we can't rely solely on these external institutions
Right.
to give us all the answers.
Or solve these really complex social problems.
We have to cultivate critical thinking skills,
Question assumption.
advocate for justice
And equity.
in our relationship.
That in the world.
Exactly. And the narrator's story is this powerful reminder that even when faced with betrayal,
Disappointment
the human spirit,
is capable of incredible resilience.
they were dealt a difficult hand,
They were.
but they never stopped seeking connection.
Never lost sight of their own worth.
No. And it just reminds us that healing is possible
Even if it's a lifelong journey,
and that it's so important to create spaces.
where vulnerability is welcomed,
Yes.
where those difficult conversations can happen,
Without judgment?
or shame.
It's wild to think that this all happened in 1995. Like, it wasn't that long ago. But so much has changed.
I know, especially when you think about like conversations around family dynamics.
Yeah. And mental health.
Back then, these topics were,
Taboo.
shrouded in silence.
Makes you wonder how their journey might have been different.
With the resources and support we have today,
Totally.
Yeah.
And it makes you appreciate their courage even more.
sharing their story,
Yeah, even years later,
it's powerful.
by putting those experiences into words,
They're processing their own pain.
but also maybe helping others going through something similar.
Absolutely. Our stories matter,
They do,
even the messy ones.
even the painful ones.
By sharing our vulnerabilities,
Okay.
we create space for connection and healing.
And speaking of healing, I wanted to circle back to forgiveness.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned it earlier.
You said it's not about condoning the behavior
Right.
or forgetting the pain.
But releasing ourselves from the burden.
Anger and resentment.
Exactly.
It's a process,
A tough one.
especially when we've been hurt by those we love.
Holding on to that bitterness,
It's toxic.
it poisons everything.
So how do we even begin to forgive when it feels impossible?
What advice would you give?
Yeah, to someone struggling to let go.
Well, first off, I think it's important to acknowledge
Okay.
that forgiveness is a personal choice.
Yeah.
You can't force it.
It happens on its own time.
It's a process, a lot of inner work.
Therapy can be helpful.
Definitely.
Navigate those emotions.
Develop healthy coping skills.
And I think it's important to remember that forgiveness doesn't always equal reconciliation.
Right. Sometimes the healthiest choice
It's to distance ourselves,
from those who've hurt us,
create boundaries,
protect our well-being,
which brings us back to the narrator's story.
and that betrayal.
They couldn't finish their degree
And they still carry that pain.
26 years later.
It's heavy.
It makes you wonder what they could have accomplished.
If they had the support they deserved,
It really highlights those systemic barriers,
that prevent people from reaching their potential.
especially those from marginalized communities.
Or those who have experienced trauma,
It's a reminder that our individual stories,
are part of something bigger.
social forces at play.
And true healing requires addressing those systemic injustices.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
I want to leave you with some food for thought. How can you cultivate more compassion,
in your own relationship,
even when it's tough?
yeah, that's a good one. What else?
What steps can you take?
To dismantle those harmful power structures.
In your family, your community,
World.
and how can you use your voice, your story,
To create change,
inspire hope
because even though the narrator's journey was filled with pain,
and betrayal?
it's ultimately a testament to resilience.
The power of the human spirit.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest times,
There's hope.
healing is possible.
And connection can guide us through